Hello, folks. I am Alan for today's news. I will be reading and speaking about world news, interesting news, news to keep you entertained, and news to keep you informed. And it's been a long time trying to find some news. Couldn't hardly find anything worth putting out. So I found something or another. Anyway, first one I got for you from News Nation. EPA denies approving burn after Ohio train derailment. The EPA said it didn't okay the controlled burn of vinyl chloride. Norfolk Southern, however, says the agency was involved in the decision. Locals say they don't trust the EPA and need more support.
The EPA is not backing down after scrutiny over whether the agency signed off on the burning of the 116,000 gallons of vinyl chloride in a Norfolk Southern train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. In a statement to News Nation, the agency say it was not in consultation on the final decision to burn 5 tank cars full of vinyl chloride. The local fire chief made the decision to do the controlled burn in consultation with Norfolk Southern, local law enforcement, and response officials from Ohio, that agency said. EPA was acting in a supporting role, not in a consultation capacity. However, Norfolk Southern told News Nation the EPA was involved and that the decision to burn was made after discussions and consultation with Governor DeWine, Governor Shapiro, Ohio state agencies, Pennsylvania state agencies, US EPA, US, and local first responders. On March 9, Norfolk Southern CEO Alan Shaw told Congress that decision was made by Unified Command, under the direction of the incident commander.
And that's all I got on that one there. And my next one here I'm going to have from USA Today. Can Biden declare the debt ceiling unconstitutional? The 14th Amendment explained.
As brinksmanship over the debt ceiling continues and the U.S. barrels towards defaulting on its debts as early as June 1, some legal experts have advocated for alternative and unprecedented solutions to ensure the government could continue paying its bills, including invoking the 14th Amendment. Some officials in the White House are discussing the prospect of essentially declaring the debt ceiling as unconstitutional, the New York Times reports. It is unclear whether the White House would proceed with such a move if the U.S. gets closer to June 1 without hard progress on the current debt ceiling negotiations. Invoking the 14th Amendment would almost certainly invite legal challenges which could start a separate fight on the debt ceiling. What is the 14th Amendment? The theory takes aim at Section 4 of the 14th Amendment, which states that the validity of the public debt of the United States, authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for services in suppressing insurrection or rebellion, shall not be questioned. The idea, the theory's proponents argue, is that it would be unconstitutional for the government to stop paying its debts. During a separate debt ceiling standoff during the Obama administration in 2011, former President Bill Clinton told the National Memo if he were president at the time, he would invoke the 14th Amendment without hesitation and force the courts to stop me. But Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has made clear she thinks Congress is the only institution with the authority to raise the debt ceiling and ensure the government could continue paying its debts. Yellen specifically dismissed the 14th Amendment as a solution to the debt ceiling standoff in 2021. We shouldn't be in a position where we need to consider whether or not the 14th Amendment applies. That's a disastrous situation that the country shouldn't be in, Yellen said on ABC's This Week. Legal scholars are mixed on 14th Amendment and the debt ceiling. The theory's proponents say the 14th Amendment's language makes clear that any steps must be taken to prevent a default, as not doing so otherwise would be unconstitutional. Section 4 does impose a constitutional mandate that is directly relevant to today's debt ceiling crisis, Rebecca Zietlow, professor of constitutional law at the University of Toledo, wrote Thursday in Jurist. But opponents to the theory argue the Constitution only grants Congress the power to borrow money and the White House does not have unilateral power to raise the debt ceiling on its own. Nothing in the 14th Amendment or in any other constitutional provision suggests that the president may usurp legislative power to prevent a violation of the Constitution, Lawrence Tribe, professor emeritus at Harvard Law School and constitutional law scholar, wrote in a New York Times op-ed in 2011. White House and top Congress leaders set to meet on debt ceiling. The top congressional leaders in both parties, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, Republican California, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat New York, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat New York, and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky, are slated to meet with President Joe Biden on May 9 to discuss raising the debt ceiling after Yellen announced the government could run out of cash to continue paying its debts as early as June 1. It is unclear how negotiations could proceed as both sides remain miles apart on their positions. McCarthy has pledged to only raise the debt ceiling in exchange for spending cuts, and McConnell has said negotiations should remain between the White House and the GOP-controlled House. Biden and top Democrats have called for a clean debt ceiling increase without spending cuts attached, while maintaining they are open to separate budget discussions.
And that's all I got on that one there. I say let Biden do something about it. Maybe we'll put him in jail finally. Anyway, let me go to the next one here. This is from Bazinga. Jong planning new threat. Tank flags secret modernization of major rocket launch site.
New satellite images revealed that North Korea's major rocket launching site is being revamped, indicating a possible effort by Kim Jong-un's regime to upgrade and modernize the facility amid U.S.-South Korea tensions. What happened? According to a recent report from a U.S. think tank, 38 North, there seems to be ongoing construction in a coastal area near North Korea's Sohae satellite launching station, which was previously used for agricultural purposes. The Tongchangri rocket launching site is where Pyongyang has previously tested major weapons systems, including a high-thrust solid-fuel rocket engine, in December last year. See also. It is unclear what this new construction will amount to, but it is likely part of the overall effort to modernize and enhance the satellite launch facility, per Kim Jong-un's goals set forth in March 2022, the report said. Why it matters. The move came a week after North Korea said it would strengthen its nuclear defense capability and assert its right to self-defense in response to the U.S. and Seoul's decision to deploy nuclear weapons near the Korean peninsula. The powerful sister of the North Korean dictator said that her
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. My antivirus are running in the background, so it's messing it up. Let me go to the next one here. This from Newsweek. China cracks down on citizens abroad as people flee country.
Government repression inside China is leading to a crackdown on dissidents outside of the country, including increased surveillance, according to human rights experts. Two New York residents, 61-year-old Liu Jianwang and 59-year-old Chen Jinping, were arrested last month on federal accusations of setting up and operating a secret police station on behalf of the Chinese government's Ministry of Public Security. The arrests have drawn additional attention to the so-called stations operated internationally by the Chinese Communist Party on 5 continents, including Europe, North America, and Africa. The police stations need to be understood in the context that the Chinese government has been pursuing Chinese dissidents living abroad for several years, Yaqi Wang, a senior China researcher for Human Rights Watch, told Newsweek in a phone conversation. There's just so many people basically fleeing China because they criticize the government, or they run afoul with the government for other reasons, she said. The Madrid-based non-governmental organization, NGO, Safeguard Defenders documented the establishment of the stations in June 2022. The stations began as pilot programs run by the public security bureaus of Fuzhou and Xinjiang counties and operated in 25 cities. Updated data published by Safeguard Defenders in December detailed over 100 reported clandestine police stations across some 50 countries controlled by various entities of the Chinese Ministry of Public Security, on behalf of the People's Republic of China, PRC. Laura Harth, the campaign director at Safeguard Defenders, told Newsweek that South Africa is the only country that they've seen that explicitly gave its consent. Nations like Italy have engaged in what she termed willful blindness to such activities, though officials there have rejected the idea of consenting to the targeting of citizens. A 2015 bilateral agreement on joint police patrols to help Chinese-speaking tourists appears to have contributed to the establishment of a station. The program ended in 2022. Italy's Interior Ministry told the national newspaper Il Fulgio last September that the Chinese stations were of no particular concern, according to The Guardian. Despite having the largest number of liaison outposts on its soil, the Italian government is among the very few European countries that has not yet publicly announced an investigation into the Chinese overseas police stations or declared their illegality, Safeguard Defenders reported. Safeguard Defenders focuses heavily on forced disappearances from the PRC and how their authorities discuss them, Harth said. Through the NGO's work helping defendants stop extraditions to China, Harth said they saw increasingly more clandestine methods of returning people to China for prosecution. And once we saw those initial, police, stations, we knew that this was probably going to be something that caught the authorities in the democratic nation's attention, Harth said. Repression in China. Wang told Newsweek that more attention has been drawn to human rights issues in China due to rising China-United States tensions. Whether the Chinese government is going to intensify its intimidation and harassment of the Chinese diaspora depends on how other governments address this issue, Wang said. A United Nations report published last August stated that the Chinese government committed abuses that may amount to crimes against humanity in their alleged targeting of Uyghurs and other Turkic communities in the Xinjiang region. This report must be understood in the context that China has a lot of influence in the UN, and to have this report out in such strong language is already a huge achievement, she said. So, I would say this is progress. It shows that China's influence in the UN and other international institutions are diminishing because of its gross violations and other countries pushing back. While it's known that China's cracking down on its citizens' rights, Wang said it's difficult to estimate how many individuals have been harassed or jailed by the PRC, saying there are huge numbers of people. Hong Kong is a strong example of repression prompting Chinese residents to flee the country. People in the city have had their freedoms decimated, and many of them have gone into exile and organized in countries like the US and the United Kingdom. Those individuals are playing a huge role in pushing back and speaking up.
Okay, there's more to read on that, the global response. And I'm going to go on my next one here. Anyway, that's why I think they would start opening companies in the U.S. because they would have a contract that said they can do any party activities that they want at the CCP, and then they'll be able to grab their people from here, from their factories. Let me go to the next one here. This is from factcheck.org. Unpacking the claim that Blinken lied to Congress.
On Fox News, Republican Senator Ron Johnson said he caught Secretary of State Antony Blinken in a lie to Congress about communicating with Hunter Biden via email. Johnson said Blinken ought to resign or be impeached. It's significant when a U.S. senator accuses a top cabinet official of lying, but there is less to the accusation than Johnson suggests. During a transcribed interview with the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs and Finance Committees in December 2020, Blinken was asked numerous questions about his relationship and interactions with President Joe Biden's son Hunter while Blinken was serving as Deputy Secretary of State under President Barack Obama. It's of interest to Republicans on the Senate committees because Hunter Biden at the time was serving on the board of Burisma Holdings Limited, one of the biggest private oil and gas companies in Ukraine. Johnson and other Republicans have raised questions about whether that represented a conflict of interest for Joe Biden, then Vice President, and whether Joe Biden may have altered U.S. policy to accommodate Burisma because his son was on the board. As we have written, there's no evidence of that. Blinken said he could recall only having one meeting with Hunter Biden, a lunch meeting at Blinken's office at the State Department in July 2015, during which Blinken said they discussed the recent death of Hunter's brother, Beau, and its effect on the family. Blinken said he couldn't recall ever talking with Hunter Biden on the phone. Blinken was then asked, "Did you have any other means of correspondence with him, emails, texts?" "No," Blinken said. On April 30, Johnson said emails recovered from Hunter Biden's laptop and released in media reports now reveal Blinken's statement was false. The laptop had been abandoned at a Delaware computer repair store, and the shop owner turned it over to the FBI. But the two emails cited as proof of Blinken's deceit were exchanges of pleasantries related to the very meeting Blinken discussed in his December 2020 testimony. In one email, Hunter Biden asked if the two men could meet, and in the other, after the meeting, Blinken says, "Great to see you and catch up." Johnson says the lie about the emails calls into question all of Blinken's testimony, in particular the claim that at the time he served in the Obama administration, he did not recall knowing that Hunter Biden even served on the Burisma board. "We reached out to the State Department press office regarding the issue, but did not receive a response. At a State Department press briefing on May 1st, a reporter asked if the department had a response to Johnson's allegation that Blinken lied to Congress. "This is not a State Department issue, and so I don't have any comment for you on that from here," Vedant Patel, principal deputy spokesperson, responded.
Okay, and there's more to read on that one there. Johnson claims. And I'm going to go to the next one. Next one I got here is from Yonhap News English. U.S. F-16 jet crashes into farmland near Osan Air Base.
Seoul/Pyongytaek, South Korea, May 6, Yonhap, a U.S. Forces Korea, USFK, F-16 fighter jet crashed into farmland near Osan Air Base on Saturday, officials said, with the pilot having escaped safely and no civilian casualties reported. According to local firefighting and police authorities, the accident occurred at about 9:30 a.m. in Pyongytaek, 60 kilometers south of Seoul. The jet crashed into a field and caught fire, resulting in the aircraft being mostly destroyed. But no casualties or civilian damage were reported as there were no houses fortunately nearby, they said. The U.S. 51st Fighter Wing later announced the crash occurred at about 9:45 a.m. in a field near Osan Air Base, with the pilot having safely ejected and transported to a nearby medical facility. It said the pilot was taking part in a routine training sortie and that the accident is under investigation. Yunhuanchi at ina.co.
And that's all I got on that one there. And we go to the next one here. This from Business Insider. A senior software engineer dies after falling from the 18th floor of Google's New York City headquarters.
A software engineer died after falling from the 14th floor of Google's headquarters, NYPD confirmed. Police responded to a 911 call on Thursday reporting an unconscious person lying on the ground. The 31-year-old senior software engineer's name is being withheld pending family notification. Full screen. A 31-year-old senior software engineer has died after falling from the 14th floor of Google's New York City office building, the New York Post first reported. The police responded to a 911 call around 11:30 p.m. on Thursday, reporting an unconscious person lying on the ground at 111 8th Avenue on West 15th Street in Manhattan, the New York Police Department confirmed to Insider. The name of the engineer hasn't been released pending family notification, the NYPD said. He was taken to Bellevue Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Google didn't immediately respond to Insider's multiple requests for comment, made outside normal working hours. The New York Post reported in February the death of another Google employee, which police said was by apparent suicide in an apartment located not far from Google's offices. The family organized a GoFundMe page in his honor. According to the U.S. Bureau of Statistics, there were 307 workplace-related deaths by suicide in 2019, the highest level on record. Amid layoffs sweeping the tech industry in recent months, Google employees were also impacted. Google parent Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai announced on January 20 the company was laying off 6% of its workforce, 12,000 workers. Hundreds of the impacted workers took to social media such as LinkedIn to express their feelings. Many shared their dismay for the way the layoffs had been conducted.
And they didn't say he died from suicide, but that's what they didn't say in those words, but that's what they mean. There's a lot of people committing suicide. It's like the big stock crash, people start killing themselves. Anyway, let's go to the next one. I found a couple articles on Homeowner Association. I would never join one myself. I think they should be illegal. Anyway, this is from the Coup Down. Homeowner outraged after facing $2,500 HOA fine over simply laundry debate. I never realized this was a possibility.
Florida homeowner Denise Wetcher recently entered a legal battle with her HOA over her right to use a clothesline in her own backyard, reports Fox 13 News. Wetcher initially applied to install the line behind her Venice, Florida, home in 2018. The Verona Reserve Homeowners Association initially granted the request. But after Wetcher started using the line, the HOA sent her a notice saying that she was in violation because the clothesline was visible from the street. To keep it out of sight, Wetcher would need to move it closer to her home, where the building would block the sunlight and where wind-blown clothes would touch the siding and get dirty. For every day Wetcher refused to move the clothesline, the HOA fined her $100, quickly reaching the maximum allowed fine of $2,500. A screenshot of the Fox 13 News article was shared on Reddit in 2021, where users expressed disbelief that an HOA could be that powerful. That sounds utterly nuts, and based on a highly subjective take on what's desirable in a neighborhood, says one commenter. Another asks, wait, the HOA is a real thing? I thought that was TV. I never realized this was a possibility, another says. HOAs in the US often have the capability to ban home modifications that don't fit the desired appearance of the neighborhood. However, as Wetcher's lawyer, James Potts Sr. points out, the Verona Reserve HOA doesn't have a specific rule against visible clotheslines. The HOA have not properly referenced or put us on notice precisely which covenant or which bylaw we have broken, he says. He also states that Wetcher has a legal right to put her clothesline in the place where it's most efficient, where you can make the most use of the sun. Wetcher isn't the first to have trouble with an HOA about eco-friendly home upgrades. One homeowner says they forced an HOA to back down after showing them the exact state law they were breaking by restricting the use of solar panels. Another isn't sure how to proceed after a similar refusal. Challenging these decisions often requires legal action, but many states have laws in place to protect homeowners' efforts to be environmentally friendly. In some cases, challenging an HOA even leads to a change in the law, like when a Maryland couple went to court to defend their yard's native flowers.
And that's all I got on that one there. And my next one here is from the Cool Down. Homeowners get revenge on HOA that try to block their hurricane-proof roof. Fine print gets you every time.
One post on r/ProRevenge shows just how homeowners can turn the tables on a restrictive homeowners association. When it comes to making eco-friendly upgrades to a home, HOAs can be a thorn in a homeowner's side. While homeowners are often trying to save money or benefit the environment, HOAs can be more concerned with how properties look. They may demand a specific kind of lawn, block the installation of solar panels, or even fine residents over gardens and clotheslines. Thankfully, many states are changing their laws to limit HOAs' powers, and even when an HOA has authority, there are ways to get around the rules. While we're on the subject of homeowners associations, here's the story of how my parents' HOA. That's what this Redditor's parents did 5 years ago when they fought a Florida HOA over home repairs. According to this user, their parents' home had been damaged by hurricanes, so they needed a roof replacement. My folks looked through roofing options and determined that a metal roof would be a great option to reduce damage/maintenance on their home, says the poster. Like good residents, they checked their HOA rules and discovered that metal roofs weren't allowed. But given that the rule was 30 years old, the poster's parents didn't believe the restriction was meant for the type of attractive and eco-friendly roof they had in mind. Reviewing the bylaw further showed that it was clearly referring to older, crappier tin roofs, the Redditor says. The homeowners wanted to be sure, so they contacted the HOA. They waited 2 months for a reply before deciding to proceed with construction. The Redditor says the HOA promptly issued their parents a $25,000 fine and told them to remove the metal roof. The poster attributes the decision to the HOA's financial troubles, writing, "The HOA was strapped for money due to other repairs/dues, and some prick had the bright idea to impose as many fines as they could on the neighborhood." However, there's a happy ending. The user's parents found a law on Florida's books forbidding HOAs from banning environmentally friendly upgrades. Since the style of roof they wanted generates heat passively and lowers energy use, it counted. They even went on to vote the HOA's leadership out of office and take over themselves to prevent future abuse of the system.
Yeah, $25,000 fine. That's ridiculous. That's really ridiculous. Let's go to the next one here. This is from the Cool Down. Homeowners reduced to tears amid frustrating fight to change rules of authorization. HOA. The system is rigged.
One Redditor says they're in tears after finding out that 2 years of work to make their HOA more eco-friendly has backfired. When homeowners try to make money-saving and environmentally friendly changes, like adding solar panels, it's common for the local HOA to object. Many homeowners complain that their HOA's actions are ignorant, deceptive, or even illegal. However, these organizations have the power to fine residents for not complying and sometimes even foreclose on homes. In many cases, the only way to get around an HOA decision is through a legal battle or changes to the law. But some homeowners have had success changing the HOA itself. That's what this Redditor claims they've been trying to do. In a post on a subreddit dedicated to complaining about HOAs, they write, "I've been working on updating the standards in my HOA for 2 years. I am now part of the Architectural Review Board, and you'd think that's progress." The poster says they've brought many issues to the HOA's attention, including illegal restrictions on solar panels, clotheslines, and drought-friendly landscaping. But instead of changing its approach, the HOA has doubled down and is using a legal loophole to make the rules permanent. "It turns out all the stuff I brought to the board's attention, they have been working to codify in our declaration," the poster writes, adding that this is the only escape clause in our state laws. If successful, the change will allow the HOA to ban solar panels on the front of houses and require lawns, costing residents money and harming the environment. "I feel like I have actually made the problem worse," the poster says. "I'm actually in the process of trying to change our state laws because of this nonsense, but if the state does what they have done in the past, I will have accomplished worse than nothing." One commenter offered a scathing opinion on those who choose to live in an HOA. "Authoritarianism appeals to many," they say. Another user said, "This is why I laugh anytime someone comments under a horrific story, get on the board and change it. The system is rigged in favor of draconian HOAs. I encourage everyone to vote with your money and refuse to live in a HOA. I genuinely think this is the only way things will change."
Yeah, I refuse to live in an HOA. I even refuse to, when I live in an apartment, I could have lived in a condo. I refuse that because condos, they're the same thing. And my last one here. This from News Nation. Homeowner accuses state of Michigan of home equity theft.
The Supreme Court is set to hear the case of an elderly woman whose home was seized and sold by the government after a tax debt on her condo grew over $15,000 in penalties, and the case could have ripple effects for homeowners across the country. Geraldine Tyler, a 94-year-old widow from Minneapolis, had a $2,300 tax debt on her condo. It grew to $15,000 with penalties. A Minnesota county board eventually seized her home, which sold for $40,000. Tawanda Hall told News Nation that the same situation happened to her. She said she started a payment plan to start paying her back taxes, and the state of Michigan sold the house from under her and kept the equity. Pig butchering scams cost Americans hundreds of thousands. Hall said she was on a payment plan with Oakland County, but the treasurer ended it and she and her family were still evicted. "I thought we were safe and protected. But, unfortunately, it seemed like a month later, we received eviction notice," she said. David Dearson, Hall's attorney, said these situations are not surprising due to how the tax laws are written in Michigan and in Minnesota. He said Hall's home sold for about $308,000 despite Hall owing a little over $22,000. Hall received none of the funds from the sale. The Southfield Nonprofit Housing Corporation sold the property and reimbursed the city for the amount of the tax debt, which then gave the property for $1 to the nonprofit's for-profit company to be sold, according to the Pacific Legal Foundation.
So that foundation got that house for nothing, for free. That should be against the law too, you know. I don't understand that. She owed just a little over $22,000. And they sold her home for $308,000. That's a ripoff. That's thieving. That's just thieving. I would do something about that. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. I'm sorry I didn't have much news. Spent most of the day looking for it. And remember, I am out for today's news. I will be reading, speaking about world news, interesting news to keep you entertained, and news to keep you informed. And don't forget to like, subscribe, at least come back once in a while. You never know what I have on here. And thanks for watching. Till next time.